In 5 minutes, I'm going to walk into that ballroom and destroy the man I love. He's about to propose to me in front of 500 people. And I'm going to have to say no. Because 3 years ago, I already said yes. He just doesn't remember. He can't remember. He was in a coma. My name is Lily Carter. I'm a nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital in Manhattan. And I'm Mrs. Alexander Kane, legally, officially, secretly. He's my patient. I'm his wife. He knows my face but not my name. He fell in love with me. I've been in love with him since before we ever met. This is the most impossible love story you'll ever hear. In 3 minutes, he'll get down on one knee. In 2 minutes, his family will realize who I really am. In 1 minute, I have to decide. Do I tell him the truth and lose everything? Or do I say no and break both our hearts? Either way, tonight changes everything. Let me tell you how we got here. Tell us which country you're watching from. This story is going to take you from Manhattan to heartbreak and back. Stay with me. 3 years ago, I was a different person. I was 24, working double shifts at St. Catherine's, and drowning in medical debt that wasn't even mine. My little sister Emma was 19. She had a rare heart condition that required experimental surgery, the kind that insurance doesn't cover. The kind that costs $500,000. I had nothing. No savings. No family money. Our parents died when I was 18, and I'd been raising Emma alone ever since. I was her only chance, and I was failing her. Every day, I watched her get weaker. Every day, the doctors said we were running out of time. Every day, I felt like I was choosing between her life and impossible debt that would destroy us both. Then one night, everything changed. They brought him in, Alexander Kane, Billionaire CEO of Kane Enterprises. Car accident on the FDR Drive. Critical condition. Coma. I wasn't supposed to be his nurse. But we were understaffed and I was there when the ambulance arrived. I helped wheel him into the ICU. I didn't know who he was then. I just saw a man fighting for his life. For 2 weeks I took care of him. Checked his vitals. Monitored his brain activity. Talked to him even though he couldn't hear me. The nurses do that sometimes. We talk to coma patients like they're listening. Maybe they are. Maybe he was. I told him about Emma, about how scared I was, about how I didn't know how to save her. I told him things I never told anyone. Then his lawyer came, Mr. Harrison. Expensive suit. Cold eyes. He asked if I was Lily Carter. I said yes. He said he had a proposition. Alexander Kane needed a wife. For legal reasons involving his company and a hostile takeover attempt by his board. If he remained unmarried and incapacitated, they could vote him out. But if he had a spouse, his shares would be protected under family trust laws. I thought it was insane. I said no. He said the position paid $500,000, exactly what Emma needed. The contract was simple. Marry Alexander by proxy while he was in coma. Stay legally married for 5 years. Never reveal the arrangement. Never contact him after he woke up unless he initiated. At the end of 5 years, quiet divorce, and I walk away with the money plus a confidentiality bonus. I asked why me. He said they needed someone with no connection to Alexander's world. Someone who wouldn't use the marriage for social climbing. Someone desperate enough to keep the secret. Someone who worked at the hospital so the paperwork would look legitimate, like he'd met me before the accident. He'd done his research. He knew about Emma. He knew I had no choice. I should have walked away. I should have found another way. But Emma had 3 months, maybe less. And I couldn't watch her die knowing I had a chance to save her and didn't take it. So I said yes. I signed the papers. A judge came to the hospital. Alexander's unconscious signature was provided through power of attorney. And just like that, I became Mrs. Alexander Kane. The surgery happened 1 week later. Emma's heart was repaired. She survived. She got to go to college. She got to live. And all it cost me was a lie I'd have to carry for 5 years. The lawyer said Alexander would never know. When he woke up, they'd tell him nothing about the marriage. The records were sealed. I'd go back to being just another nurse. He'd go back to being a billionaire. Our lives would never cross again. Except they were wrong. 3 months later, Alexander Kane woke up, and I was there. I'd requested to be taken off his case, but that night I was covering for someone. I was checking his vitals when his eyes opened. Storm gray eyes. Confused. Searching. They landed on me. And he smiled. He actually smiled. His first words were, "Who are you?" I told him I was his nurse. Lily. He repeated my name like he was testing it. Lily. He said it was pretty. I called for the doctor. They ran tests. Checked his memory. He remembered everything before the accident. His company. His life. But the accident itself was gone. The 2 weeks in coma were blank. He didn't remember the marriage. He didn't remember anything. The lawyer's plan had worked perfectly. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt strange. Like I'd lost something I never had. For 2 weeks, I'd talked to him. Told him my secrets. Held his hand. And now he was awake and I was nobody to him. Just Nurse Lily. I finished my shift. I went home. I cried for reasons I didn't understand. Then I didn't see him again for 2.5 years. Emma graduated from college. I paid off the last of our other debts. I kept working at St. Catherine's because I loved nursing and it felt safe. The lawyer sent me a check every year, part of the contract payment. I deposited it. I never spent it. It felt like blood money, like I'd sold something I couldn't name. I tried to forget Alexander Kane existed. But sometimes, late at night, I'd search his name online. See photos of him at galas. Wonder if he was happy. Then 6 months ago he came back, not to the hospital. To my life. He was scheduled for follow-up neurological exams, routine for coma survivors. And he requested St. Catherine's. He requested the team that treated him during his coma. Hospital administration assigned me as his primary care nurse for the evaluation series. I tried to refuse. They said it wasn't optional. He'd specifically asked for the nurses who'd been there. He wanted to thank us. The first appointment, I thought I'd die. I walked into that examination room and there he was. 3 years older. More handsome than any man had a right to be. Expensive suit. Confident posture. But his eyes were the same. Storm gray. Searching. He looked at me and smiled. That same smile from when he woke up. He said, "Lily, right? I remember you. You were there when I opened my eyes." My heart stopped. He remembered. But he didn't remember everything. Just that moment. Just my face. Just my name. I managed to smile. I said yes. I said I was glad he'd recovered. He said he'd always wondered about me. The nurse with the kind voice who was there when he came back to the world. He asked if he could take me to coffee after the appointment. I said no. I said it wasn't professional. He looked disappointed. But he said he understood. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. He came back every 2 weeks for his evaluations. And every time he talked to me, not like a patient talks to a nurse, like a man talks to a woman he's interested in. He asked about my life, my hobbies, my favorite books. He told me about his company, his renovations to the penthouse, his terrible attempts at cooking. He was charming. Funny. Nothing like I expected a billionaire to be. And I fell. God help me. I fell in love with my own husband, the man who didn't know he'd married me, the man who was courting me like we were strangers. Every conversation felt like stolen time. Every smile felt like a secret. I knew I should tell him. I knew I was living a lie. But how do you tell someone, by the way, we've been legally married for 3 years and you had no idea? 4 months ago, he asked again. Coffee, just coffee. He said his evaluations were almost done, and he might not have another excuse to see me. He said he knew it was crossing lines, but he couldn't stop thinking about me. I saw something in his eyes that night. Vulnerability, hope, fear of rejection. I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted one real thing with him. One moment that wasn't built on contracts and lies. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a walk through Central Park. The walk turned into him telling me about the accident, how he'd felt lost when he woke up, how something had always felt missing, but he couldn't name it, how seeing me again felt like finding something he'd been searching for. I wanted to tell him then. The truth was right there on my tongue. But he kissed me. And I forgot how to speak. We started seeing each other. Secret at first, because of hospital policies about staff and patients. Then his evaluations ended and it didn't have to be secret anymore. But I kept it quiet anyway. Because how could I bring him into my world when I was already in his in a way he couldn't know? Emma met him. She loved him. She had no idea he was technically her brother-in-law. The irony was suffocating. 2 months ago, he said he loved me. We were in his penthouse. It was raining. We'd cooked dinner together badly and laughed until we cried. He pulled me close and said, "I love you, Lily Carter. I think I've loved you since the moment I opened my eyes and saw you. I love you." He said it like it was simple. Like it was true, and it was, but so was the lie between us. I said it back, because I did. I loved him so much it hurt. I loved him in a way I'd never loved anyone. But I didn't tell him the rest. I didn't tell him about the contract. About the lawyer. About the fact that loving him meant betraying him every single day. I told myself I'd tell him soon. After his company merger. After his mother's birthday. After the charity gala. I kept finding reasons to wait. To have one more day in this beautiful lie. 1 month ago, his lawyer died, Mr. Harrison, heart attack. I saw it in the news. I thought maybe the secret died with him. But then Alexander mentioned something strange. His legal team was reviewing Harrison's files. There were sealed documents about his coma period, medical decisions, legal protections. Alexander said he wanted to understand what happened during those 2 weeks. He said he felt like there was something he should remember. I panicked. I called the number on the contract papers. A different lawyer answered. I asked what would happen if Alexander found out. She said the contract had a clause. If the arrangement was discovered before the 5-year term ended, I'd have to return all money plus penalties. Emma's surgery. Her college. Everything. We'd be destroyed. She asked if there was risk of discovery. I said I didn't know. She said, "Then you better hope those files stay sealed." But I couldn't let it go. I had to know what he'd find. I accessed the hospital records, the ones from his coma. I'm not supposed to, but I used my credentials. One found the marriage certificate copy. It was filed in his patient records under legal documentation. Anyone reviewing his complete medical history would see it, including Alexander, including his new legal team. It was only a matter of time. I decided I had to tell him. Before he found out another way, I'd tell him everything. The desperation, the contract, the money, the fact that I'd fallen in love with him for real. I'd tell him and accept whatever happened. I owed him that much. I owed us that much. I planned it for tonight. After the charity gala. In private. Where I could explain. Where he could process. Where maybe, impossibly, he could forgive me. But then this afternoon happened. He called me. Asked me to meet him early before the gala. He sounded nervous. Excited. He said he had something important to ask me. My stomach dropped. I knew what it was. I knew before he said anything. And I realized with absolute horror that I'd waited too long. He was going to propose, tonight, in front of everyone. Before I could tell him the truth, I almost canceled, almost texted him some excuse. But what would that solve? This was happening. The universe was forcing my hand. So, I got dressed. I put on the emerald gown he'd sent me last week with a note that said, "I can't wait to see you in this." I did my makeup. I looked in the mirror. And I saw a woman about to lose everything she'd ever wanted, including things she never had the right to want in the first place. Now I'm here. The Plaza Hotel. The annual St. Catherine's Hospital Charity Gala. 500 people. New York's elite. Alexander's family. His business partners. Everyone who matters in his world. I can see him across the ballroom. He's talking to his mother. He keeps looking toward the entrance. Looking for me. When he sees me, his whole face lights up. He starts walking over. This is it. This is the moment everything ends. He reaches me. He takes my hands. He tells me I look incredible. He's nervous. I can feel his palms sweating. He asks if we can talk somewhere private before dinner. I say yes. My voice sounds far away. He leads me toward a small gallery off the main ballroom. His hand is on my back. I can feel his heartbeat through his jacket. He has no idea his heart is about to break. Because of me. Because I loved him enough to save him and not enough to tell him the truth. We're alone in the gallery. Renaissance paintings on the walls. A single bench in the center. He turns to me. He's smiling, but I can see he's terrified. He says, "Lily, these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You make me feel found. Like I've been looking for you forever without knowing it." He reaches into his jacket pocket. My heart is shattering. I have to stop this. I have to tell him now. But before I can speak, someone else does. Alexander Kane, what a surprise. The voice comes from the doorway. We both turn. It's a woman, mid-50s, elegant, cold eyes. She's holding a folder. Alexander's face goes pale. He says, "Mrs. Harrison, the lawyer's widow." She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. She says, "I've been going through my late husband's files. Found something interesting. Something I think you both need to see." She walks toward us. I feel the floor disappearing under my feet. She opens the folder, pulls out papers. Marriage certificate. Contract documents. Photos from the hospital chapel 3 years ago. She hands them to Alexander. He stares at them. I watch his face change. Confusion, disbelief, understanding, horror. He looks at me. His voice is barely a whisper. He says, "What is this?" Mrs. Harrison answers before I can. She says, "It's your marriage license, Mr. Kane. To Miss Carter here. Filed 3 years ago while you were in a coma. Congratulations. You've been married this entire time." Alexander's hands are shaking. He looks at me. He says my name like a question. "Lily?" I try to speak, but nothing comes out. Mrs. Harrison continues. She says my husband arranged this marriage to protect your company during the takeover attempt. Miss Carter was paid $500,000. The contract stipulated she never reveal the arrangement. She's been lying to you for 6 months, Mr. Kane. Every moment. Every kiss. Every time she said she loved you. All of it built on fraud. The words hit him like bullets. I see each one land. His face closes off. The warmth in his eyes dies. He's looking at me like I'm a stranger, like I'm something worse than a stranger. A liar. A con artist. Someone who played him. He says, "Is it true?" His voice is cold. Dead. I've never heard him sound like that. I try to explain. I say, "Alexander, please, let me explain." He cuts me off. He says,
Is it true? Yes or no? I say yes, because I can't lie anymore. I say yes, we're married, yes, there was a contract, yes, I was paid. But I try to tell him why. I try to tell him about Emma, about the surgery, about the impossible choice. He's not listening. He's staring at the papers like they're written in a language he can't understand. Mrs. Harrison says, "I'll leave you two to discuss this." But Mr. Kane, you should know this marriage can be annulled for fraud. My firm can handle it. She leaves. We're alone. Alexander still won't look at me. He says, 6 months. We've been together for 6 months. You let me fall in love with you. You said you loved me. And the entire time you knew. You knew we were already married. You knew you'd been paid to marry me. You knew everything was a lie. His voice breaks on the last word. I've never seen him cry. I'm seeing it now. And I did this to him. I broke him. I tell him I love him. I tell him that part was never a lie. I tell him I fell in love with him before I ever knew him, talking to him while he was in a coma, and then I fell in love again when he woke up, and again every day after. I tell him the contract meant nothing. The money meant nothing. He was everything. He is everything. I'm crying so hard I can barely speak. He finally looks at me, and his eyes are empty. He says, "How do I believe anything you say? How do I know what was real and what was performance? When you kissed me, were you kissing me or were you kissing the money? When you said you loved me, did you mean it or was it part of the contract?" He's right. I've given him no reason to trust me. I've spent 6 months proving I'm a liar. I say the only thing I can. I say, "I'm sorry. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's all I have." He folds the papers carefully, puts them in his jacket pocket. He says, "I came here tonight to propose to you, to ask you to marry me. And it turns out you've been my wife for 3 years. The irony is not lost on me." He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Just pain. He says, "I need time to process this. I need time to think. I need you to leave. Not just this room. This city. I don't want to see you until I figure out what any of this means." I ask how much time. He says he doesn't know. Maybe forever. Maybe he'll call Mrs. Harrison tomorrow and start annulment proceedings. Maybe he'll have the marriage dissolved like it never existed, which is almost true. It never existed. Not really. Not the way marriage should. We had papers, but we never had trust. We had love, but we never had honesty. What kind of marriage is that? He's right to want it gone. He's right to want me gone. I turn to leave. I make it 3 steps. Then he says my name. Lily. I stop. I don't turn around. I can't look at him. He says, "One question. Just one. Did you ever actually love me? Or was I always just the man who could pay for your sister's surgery?" I turn around. I look him in the eyes. And I tell him the absolute truth. I say, "I loved you the moment you woke up and smiled at me like I'd given you the world. I loved you before I knew what love was. And I'll love you long after you've forgotten I exist." Something flickers in his eyes. Pain, longing, confusion, anger, everything at once. He opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. But no words come. Finally, he just nods, once. Then he walks past me, out of the gallery, back into the ballroom where 500 people are waiting for him to propose to his girlfriend, who is actually his wife, who he now knows betrayed him. I stand there alone surrounded by Renaissance paintings of lovers and saints and martyrs. I don't know which one I am. I should leave. I should walk out of this hotel and out of his life like he asked. But I can't move. I sink onto the bench. I'm still holding my clutch purse. Inside is the one thing I've kept secret even from myself.
My copy of our marriage certificate. I've carried it for 3 years.
Not because of the contract, but because some part of me wanted it to be real.
Wanted to be his wife, even when he didn't know.
Even when it was just ink on paper and desperate hope. I hear footsteps. I look up expecting hotel staff.
It's Emma.
She's wearing her bridesmaid dress. We joked about it last week. About how she'd be my maid of honor when Alexander finally proposed. She takes one look at my face and runs to me. She says, "What happened? Are you okay?" And I break. I tell her everything. The contract. The marriage. The money that saved her life. The lie I've been living. The love that was real but built on fraud. She holds me while I sob. She doesn't say anything.
What can she say?
Finally, Emma pulls back. She looks at me with tears streaming down her face. She says, "You did that for me? You married a stranger in a coma to save my life?" I tell her I'd do anything for her. She says, "And now you've lost him because of me." I say no, I lost him because I lied. Because I was a coward. Because I didn't trust that love could survive truth. She says, "Lily, you're the bravest person I know. You saved my life. Now go save yours. Go tell him everything he needs to hear. Don't let it end like this."
I shake my head. He told me to leave.
He told me he needs time. I have to respect that. Emma says, "Time for what?" To convince himself you never loved him.
To let that horrible lawyer woman poison his mind? He's hurting right now. He's angry.
But you know what he's not. He's not indifferent.
If he didn't care, he wouldn't have cried. If he didn't love you, he wouldn't have asked if you loved him. He gave you a chance to tell the truth.
You did. Now give him a chance to process it. She's right. I know she's right. But I'm terrified. What if I go back and he destroys me completely?
What if I fight for us and he chooses to walk away anyway? Emma squeezes my hands.
She says, "Then at least you'll know you tried.
At least you'll know you loved him enough to risk everything. Isn't that what love is?
The willingness to lose everything for the chance of something real? You taught me that. When you signed those papers.
When you chose my life over your own safety. Now choose love over fear."
I stand up. I wipe my tears.
I fix my makeup as best I can. Emma helps me.
She says, "You look like a warrior queen.
Go get your husband."
We laugh. It's a broken sound, but it's real. I walk back toward the ballroom. My legs are shaking. My heart is pounding. I have no plan, no speech prepared. Just the truth and the desperate hope that truth is enough. That love is enough.
That we are enough.
I enter the ballroom. Everyone is seated for dinner.
I scan the crowd. Alexander is at the head table. His mother is talking to him. He's not listening. He's staring at his wine glass like it holds answers. I start walking toward him. People notice. Conversations stop.
Everyone is watching. I don't care. I only see him. I reach the head table. His mother looks up. She says, "Oh, Lily dear, we saved you a seat." Alexander's eyes snap to mine. I see shock, fear. Something else I can't name. I don't sit down. I speak.
Loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. I say, "Alexander, I know you asked me to leave. I know you need time. But I also know I'll regret it for the rest of my life if I don't say this now, in front of everyone, so there are no more secrets." His jaw tightens. His mother looks confused. I keep going. I say, 3 years ago I married you. You were in a coma. I did it for money to save my sister's life. It was supposed to be fake. It was supposed to mean nothing." The whispers explode. His mother gasps.
Alexander stands up. He says quietly, "Lily, don't. But I can't stop now."
I say, "But it wasn't fake. Not to me." I fell in love with you while you slept. I told you all my fears and dreams. And when you woke up and smiled at me, I fell in love again. And when you asked me to coffee 6 months ago, I fell in love for the third time. I've fallen in love with you over and over. Every version of you. Every moment. Even knowing I didn't deserve it. Alexander's face is unreadable. I'm shaking, but I continue. I say, I lied to you. I kept secrets. I was a coward. I should have told you the truth the moment you asked me to coffee. I should have told you before I kissed you. Before I let you fall in love with someone who was already your wife. I was wrong. I hurt you. And I'm so sorry. But I need you to know. The only real thing in all of this is how much I love you. That was never part of the contract. That was never part of any plan. That was just me choosing you. Over and over. I reach into my clutch. I pull out my marriage certificate. I hold it up. I say I've carried this for 3 years. Not because I had to, but because it was the only proof that for one moment I was yours. Even if you didn't know it. Even if it was just paper. I wanted it to be real, and then you made it real. You made us real. And I destroyed it by not trusting that you could love me if you knew the truth. I was wrong. And if you want to annul this marriage, I'll sign whatever you need. But first I need you to know I love you, Alexander Kane. And that is the only truth that matters. Silence. Complete silence. 500 people holding their breath. Alexander stares at me. At the certificate. Back at me. His eyes are wet. His hands clench and unclench at his sides. His mother touches his arm. He doesn't seem to notice. Finally, he speaks. His voice carries across the silent ballroom. He says, "You loved me when I was in a coma." I nod. He says, "You talked to me. Told me about your sister. About being scared." I nod again. He says, "I heard you." My heart stops. He continues. He says, "I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Couldn't open my eyes. But I heard voices. Yours especially. You talked to me like I was human. Like I mattered. Not like the doctors who discussed my brain activity. Not like my family who cried and prayed. You just talked. About the weather. About your shift. About your sister and how much you loved her. About how scared you were. I wanted to tell you it would be okay. I wanted to wake up and meet you. And then I did." He steps toward me. The crowd doesn't exist anymore. "It's just us," he says. "When I woke up and saw your face, I knew you. I didn't remember how or why, but I knew you were important." The doctor said it was confusion. Post-coma disorientation. But it wasn't. It was recognition. I'd fallen in love with your voice, with your kindness, with the girl who sat with a stranger in a coma and treated him like he was worth something. I fell in love with you 3 years ago, Lily. I just didn't remember until right now. I can't breathe. He's standing right in front of me now. He takes the marriage certificate from my shaking hands. He looks at it, at our signatures, at the date. He says, "We got married before we met." That might be the mostest thing I've ever heard. I laugh. It's half sob. He cups my face in his hands. He says, "You saved my life twice. Once with a marriage that protected my company. Once with your voice that gave me something to fight for in the darkness. And you think I'm going to let you go because of a contract, because of money? Because you were desperate and human and terrified?" He leans his forehead against mine. He says, "I was angry. I was hurt. I felt betrayed, and maybe I was. But Lily, you've been betraying yourself for 3 years. Carrying this secret. Loving me and thinking you didn't deserve to. Thinking I'd hate you if I knew. I don't hate you. I could never hate you. I love you. I loved you then. I love you now. I'll love you forever. And we're already married.
So I don't need to propose.
I just need to ask you one question. Will you stay?
One say yes. I say yes 1,000 times.
I say yes until the word loses meaning and becomes just breath and relief and joy. He kisses me.
And the ballroom erupts. Applause. Cheers. People standing. His mother is crying. Emma is crying. I'm crying.
He's crying.
And we're laughing through the tears because we're married. We've been married. And now everyone knows. No more secrets, no more lies, just us.
Just this impossible love that started with paperwork and a prayer and became the realest thing I've ever known. Later, after the dinner, after the speeches, after 100 people congratulate us on the most dramatic love story they've ever witnessed, Alexander and I slip away. We end up in the same small gallery where everything fell apart hours ago. He's holding my hand. I'm holding his.
We're both still shaking a little.
He says, "So, Mrs. Kane, how does it feel to finally use your real name?"
I laugh. I say, terrifying. Perfect. Like coming home.
He pulls me close. He says, "I meant what I said. I heard you during the coma. I didn't remember consciously. But my subconscious did. That's why I asked for St. Catherine's for my follow-up. That's why I requested the nurses who treated me. I was looking for you without knowing it. When I saw you again, something in me just clicked. Like finding a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing. I thought it was attraction. It was recognition." I tell him about the nights I stayed late during his coma, how I'd read to him sometimes. Medical journals because that's all I had. But also poetry. Rumi, Neruda. Love poems to a man who couldn't hear them. Except he did. He says, I remember words. Not all of them, but pieces. Something about love being the bridge. Was that you? I nod. It was Rumi. Love is the bridge between you and everything. He smiles. He says you built that bridge for us. Before we even existed. He asks about Emma. About how she's doing now. I tell him she's thriving. She's in graduate school. She volunteers at a children's hospital. She wants to be a pediatric cardiologist because she understands what it's like to be the scared kid in the bed. She's incredible. And she exists because of that contract. Because of the choice I made. He says, then I'm grateful for that contract. It gave me my company. It gave me you. It gave your sister life. That's not fraud. That's not a lie. That's grace in strange packaging. I ask what happens now. With the contract. With Mrs. Harrison. With the legal mess. He says he'll handle it. The contract is void anyway since we've turned it into a real marriage. And Mrs. Harrison can't do anything. She revealed sealed documents out of spite. His lawyers will bury her. But that's not what matters. What matters is us. What matters is that we choose this. Not because of papers or lawyers or money, but because we want to, because we love each other. Because we're already married and we might as well mean it. He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a small box, opens it. Inside is a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. He says, I was going to propose tonight. I still want to. Not because we're not married, but because I want you to have the moment, the choice, the romance. So, Lily Carter Kane, my wife of 3 years, my love of forever, will you marry me again? Will you choose me knowing everything? Knowing I'm flawed and stubborn and I hold grudges and I cry at Pixar movies? I'm laughing and crying. I say, you cry at Pixar movies? He says, Up destroys me every time. Don't deflect. Answer the question. I say yes, yes to marrying you again. Yes to choosing you. Yes to every flaw. Yes to Pixar tears. Yes to everything. He slides the ring on my finger. It fits perfectly. Next to the plain gold band I've worn on a chain around my neck for 3 years.
The one from our first wedding. I pull it out.
Show him. He stares. He says, "You kept it." I say, "I kept everything. I kept you." He kisses me. Different from before. This kiss is a promise. A beginning that's also a continuation. When we break apart, he says, we should probably have a real wedding.
With guests who know what's happening. With vows we both hear. With dancing and cake and Emma giving an embarrassing maid of honor speech, I say, she'd love that. He says, when?
I say, whenever you want. We've been married 3 years. What's a few more months of planning? He considers. He says, or we could do it next week.
Just us, Emma, my mom, a judge.
Make it official in a way we both remember this time. Then have the big party later. I love this idea. I love that he wants to marry me immediately.
That he doesn't want to wait. That he's choosing urgency over perfection.
I say, next week. He grins. He says, next week I marry my wife for the first time. That's beautifully insane. I say, that's us. Beautifully insane. We return to the ballroom. His mother intercepts us immediately. She hugs me so tight I can't breathe. She says, I knew there was something. I knew you two had a connection I couldn't explain. Now I know why. You were already family. Welcome home, Lily, officially. She's crying. I'm crying. Alexander says, Mom, we've been married 3 years. She says, and I've been waiting 3 years for you to find the right woman. I'm just glad she found you first. Emma finds us. She's bouncing on her toes.
She says, so you're officially my brother now?
Alexander says, I've been your brother for 3 years apparently. She launches herself at him in a hug. She says, thank you for loving my sister. Thank you for forgiving her. Thank you for being the kind of man who cries at the truth instead of running from it. He hugs her back. He says, thank you for pushing her to fight for us. She says, that's what little sisters do. We meddle. It's our job. The rest of the night is a blur.
People keep approaching us. Some congratulate us. Some look scandalized.
One elderly woman says it's the most romantic thing she's ever heard. One board member says it's the most irregular thing he's ever heard. Alexander says, good thing I don't care what the board thinks about my personal life. We dance. Our first dance is a couple that knows they're married. He holds me close. He says, I'm never letting you go. I say, good. I'm not going anywhere. At midnight we leave. His car is waiting. He asks where I want to go.
Home? His penthouse?
Anywhere? I say, anywhere you are. He laughs. He says, that's dangerously romantic. I'm going to hold you to that.
What if I want to go to Montana?
I say, I'll go to Montana. He says, what if I want to go to a hospital fundraiser every Saturday? I say, I'll wear emerald dresses and let you show me off. He says, what if I just want to stay in bed all day Sunday? I say, I'm listening. We end up at his penthouse. Our penthouse, he corrects. I've never stayed overnight before. It felt like crossing a line when I was keeping secrets. Now there are no secrets left. He gives me a tour like I haven't been here before. Shows me the master bedroom. Says, this is our room. Shows me the closet. Says, half of this is yours now. Shows me the bathroom. Says, I'm terrible at sharing counter space, but I'll learn. I'm falling in love with him again. The him that wants to share his space. His life. Everything. We change out of our gala clothes. I don't have anything here, so he gives me one of his shirts. It's huge on me. He stares. He says, that's ridiculously attractive.
I should be mad about that, but I'm not. I say you're easy to please. He says, no.
I'm just pleased by you. Everything you do. Everything you are. He's looking at me like I'm precious. Like I'm his. Like he's mine. And we are. We've been each other's for 3 years. We just didn't know it. We end up on the couch. City lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. He makes tea. I curl into his side. He says, "Tell me everything. All the things you couldn't tell me before." I tell him about carrying the marriage certificate. About Googling him at night. About almost telling him 100 times. About being terrified he'd hate me. About loving him so much it physically hurt. He listens to everything. And then he tells me his secrets. About feeling incomplete after the coma. About dreams of a voice he couldn't place. About falling for me so fast it scared him. He asks what I want now, for us, for the future. I think about it. I say, I want to keep being a nurse. I love my job. I'm good at it, he says, of course. I never want you to give up who you are. I say, I want Emma to finish school and know she doesn't owe me anything. He says, she doesn't. You gave her life. That's not a debt. That's love. I say, I want Sundays in bed. I want coffee in the morning. I want to fight with you about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want boring and normal and real. He says, I want that too. But I also want adventure. I want to take you to Italy. To the hospital where Da Vinci studied anatomy because you're a nurse and you'd love that. I want to dance with you at 100 more galas. I want to watch you save lives. I want to fight about dishes and make up in creative ways. I want everything. The boring, the exciting, the fights, the makeups, all of it with you. Only you, always you. And we have 3 years to make up for. So we better get started. I kiss him. It's different now. Everything is different. We're not girlfriend and boyfriend sneaking around hospital policies. We're husband and wife. We're partners. We're teammates. We're lovers who chose each other twice. Once in desperation and paperwork. Once in truth and forgiveness. Both count. Both matter. We're the sum of both marriages. The contract one and the real one. They've merged into something stronger than either alone. Later, lying in bed in the dark, he says something that makes me cry. He says, you know what the worst part of the coma was? It wasn't the darkness. It wasn't the fear. It was the loneliness. I could hear people, but I couldn't reach them. I was trapped inside myself. But your voice made me feel less alone. You saved me before you married me. You saved me by just being there. By talking to me like I mattered. I would have married you for that alone. Everything else is just bonus. I tell him he saved me too. By being someone worth saving. By giving me a reason to believe in good outcomes. By waking up and smiling. By falling in love with me and making me believe I could be loved. By forgiving me tonight when he had every right to walk away. He says, I could never walk away from you. You're my wife. You've been my wife. You'll always be my wife. In sickness and in health, we said those vows once. We'll say them again. And this time we'll both be awake to hear them. I fall asleep in his arms. In our bed, in our home. For the first time in 3 years, I sleep without secrets. Without fear. Without wondering when everything will fall apart. Because it already did. It fell apart and we put it back together. Stronger. Honest. Real. When I wake up, he's watching me. He says, good morning, wife. I say, good morning, husband. We both laugh. It's still surreal. It might always be a little surreal. But it's ours. This strange, impossible, beautiful love is ours. Over breakfast, he asks about the contract money. What happened to it? I tell him most of it went to Emma's surgery and recovery. Some went to paying off our parents' old medical debts. The rest I put in a savings account and never touched. I couldn't spend it. It felt wrong. He's quiet for a moment. Then he says, we should donate it. To the hospital. For families who need surgery funds. For people in the same impossible position you were in. Make something good from something complicated. I love him so much in this moment I can't speak. I just nod. The next week is chaos.
Planning a small wedding in 7 days. Telling his family the whole story.
Dealing with Mrs. Harrison's threats until Alexander's lawyers shut her down completely. She violated privacy laws. She's facing her own legal problems now. I should feel vindicated.
Mostly I feel sad for her.
She lost her husband and struck out in grief and anger. I understand that. Alexander says I'm too kind. I say someone has to be. He says that's why he loves me. Because I choose kindness even when it's hard. The wedding is small. City Hall. A judge who's a friend of Alexander's mother. Emma as my maid of honor. Alexander's best friend from college as his best man. His mother crying happy tears. A photographer to capture the moment. This time we're both awake.
This time we both say the vows and mean them.
This time when he kisses me, we're both present for it.
It's perfect. Not because it's fancy, but because it's real.
Because we chose it.
Because we chose each other.
Our vows are custom. I say, Alexander, I vowed to love you 3 years ago when you couldn't hear me.
I vow it again now when you can. I promise to tell you the truth even when it's hard.
I promise to choose you every day.
I promise to be your wife in more than name, in action, in love, in partnership.
For all the years we've already had and all the years to come. He says, Lily, you've been my wife longer than you've been my girlfriend. Let's keep that ratio going. Let's be married forever.
Let's choose this. Let's choose us. I do. I did.
I always will. The kiss is different this time.
It's not our first kiss.
It's not even our 100th.
But it's our first kiss as a couple who knows everything, who chose everything,
who forgave everything. It's the kiss of two people who fell in love in the strangest way possible and decided to make it work anyway. The judge pronounces us husband and wife. Emma cheers. His mother cries harder. His best friend yells finally. Alexander laughs against my lips. We're married. Again. For real this time. Both times were real. But this one we'll remember.
We have a small reception at his favorite restaurant. Italian. The owner knows him and sets up a private room. Emma gives a speech about how I sacrificed everything for her and how she's glad I finally get my happily ever after.
His mother gives a speech about how she knew from the moment she met me that I was the one.
His best friend gives a speech about how Alexander has been insufferable and lovesick for months and thank God we figured it out. We laugh. We cry. We eat too much pasta.
We drink too much wine. It's perfect. That night we go home. To our home. Not his penthouse. Our penthouse. He carries me over the threshold even though I've been there before. I say, you know, I've already been inside, right?
He says, humor me. This is our wedding night. The one we both remember. Let me do the traditional thing. So I let him carry me, and it feels right, like we're starting over.
Like we're beginning something new while honoring something old. Like we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Weeks pass, then months. We settle into married life. Real married life. I keep my job at the hospital. He runs his company. We argue about who left dishes in the sink. We make up in the shower. We have Sunday mornings in bed. We have date nights on Fridays. We have normal. We have boring.
We have exactly what I wanted, and it's more than I ever dreamed. Because it's real. Because it's ours. Because we built it from broken pieces and made something whole. Emma finishes graduate school. At her graduation, she introduces us as her sister and brother-in-law. Alexander tears up. Later, he tells me that being called her brother means more than any business success. That being part of our small family is the greatest honor. I love him more every day.
I didn't think that was possible, but it is. Love isn't finite. It's not a tank that empties. It's a well that deepens.
Every day with him, I find new depths, new reasons, new ways to love him. On our first anniversary, the real one, the one we both remember, he takes me back to the hospital, to the ICU where we met. He's arranged a private visit during off hours. We stand in the room where he was in a coma, where I talk to him, where everything started. He says, "This is where I fell in love with you. This ugly room with beeping machines and fluorescent lights. This is where you gave me your voice, your time, your heart. Before you knew me, before I knew you. This is where we started." I cry. Of course I cry. He holds me. He says, "I have something for you." He hands me a frame. Inside is our first marriage certificate, the one from 3 years ago, and our second one. Side by side, he says, both count, both matter. We've been married for 3 years and 3 months, and married again for 3 months. I want to honor both, the desperate beginning and the chosen continuation. All of it is us. All of it is our story. I love him so much I ache. We leave the hospital and go to the plaza, to the ballroom where everything almost ended, where everything actually began in a different way. He's rented it for the night. Just us. The same gallery where Mrs. Harrison revealed the truth, where I made my public confession, where he forgave me. He's brought a speaker. He plays music. He holds out his hand. He says we never got our first dance. Not really. So, let's do it now. Let's dance in the place where we chose each other. Let's reclaim this space. We dance in the empty ballroom where 500 people watched us fall apart and come together. Where I destroyed everything and rebuilt it. Where he forgave the unforgivable. Where we became us. We dance and he holds me close. He says I would do it all again. The coma, the confusion, the pain, the betrayal. All of it, if it meant ending up here. With you. Married to you. Loving you. I would choose every hard thing if it led to you. I say me too. I would choose the desperate choice. The scary choice. The choice that broke my heart. Because it gave me you. Later, lying in bed in our home, he asks if I have any regrets. I think about it honestly. I say, I regret the lies. I regret the fear. I regret not trusting us sooner. But I don't regret the choice that started everything. I don't regret signing those papers. I don't regret becoming your wife before you knew my name. Because it gave Emma life. It gave you your company. It gave us this strange, impossible foundation. We built a real marriage on a fake one. And somehow it worked. Somehow we're here. He says, "You want to know a secret?" I say, "I thought we were done with secrets." He laughs. He says, "This is a good one." I've had our first marriage certificate framed in my office since the day after the gala. My board members see it every meeting. They ask about the date. I tell them the whole story. About the coma, the contract, the nurse who saved me twice, the love that found a way. Some of them think I'm crazy. Some think it's romantic. I don't care what they think. I just want everyone to know you've been mine for 3 years. And I've been yours even when I didn't know it. I tell him my secret. I've been writing our story. In a journal. Every detail. From the first time I saw him unconscious to now, I want to remember. I want Emma's kids to know someday. I want to tell them about the aunt who loved them enough to marry a stranger. About the uncle who forgave her for loving him wrong before loving him right. About how love isn't always pretty or simple or easy, but it's always worth it. He asks if he can read it. I say someday. When it's finished. He says, "When will it be finished?" I say never. We're still writing it. Every day. Months turn into a year. Then 2. We talk about kids. About buying a house with a yard. About growing old together. About all the normal things married couples discuss. But we never forget how we started.
We celebrate 2 anniversaries every year.
The first marriage in April, the second in November. Both matter. Both shaped us. Both made us who we are. We're the couple who got married twice. We're the couple who fell in love in a coma.
We're the couple who survived truth and chose each other anyway.
Emma gets engaged to a kind man who loves her completely. At her engagement party, she thanks me in her speech. She says, "My sister taught me that love requires sacrifice.
That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is make the hard choice.
That family means doing impossible things for each other." She gave me life twice. Once when our parents died and she raised me. Once when she married a stranger to pay for my surgery. I owe her everything, but she says I owe her nothing. That's love. That's what I want with you. Her fiancé looks at us. He says, and her brother-in-law taught me that forgiveness is possible.
That love survives truth. That you can start from broken and build something whole.
Thank you both for showing us what real partnership looks like. Alexander squeezes my hand. Later he says, we did that. We showed them something good. Something worth having. We took our mess and made it meaningful. I'm proud of us. I'm so damn proud of us.
I am too. I'm proud of us for surviving, for choosing.
For loving through the impossible. 3 years after the gala, we're back at St. Catherine's Hospital. Not for drama this time. For the dedication of the Carter Kane Family Surgery Fund. We donated the contract money plus matching funds from Alexander's company. It's a full scholarship fund for families who can't afford life-saving surgeries. Emma cuts the ribbon.
Alexander gives a speech about second chances, about how his life was saved twice, once by doctors,
once by a nurse brave enough to marry him. I give a speech about desperate choices and how no one should have to choose between death and life. After the ceremony, a young mother approaches us. She's crying. She says, "My daughter needs heart surgery. Your fund is going to cover it. You saved her life. You saved us."
How do I thank you? I hug her.
I say, "You don't thank us. You love her fiercely. You make brave choices. You do what you have to do. And someday, if you can, you help someone else. That's how love works. It multiplies. It ripples. It saves more than one person. It saves everyone it touches." That night, Alexander asks me if I'm happy.
I think about it. Really think.
3 years ago, I was drowning, desperate, making an impossible choice. 2 years ago, I was lying to the man I loved, terrified of losing everything. 1 year ago, I was newly married for the second time to a man who forgave me. Now I'm standing in our bedroom in our home with my husband who knows everything and loves me anyway. Emma is healthy and engaged. We've helped dozens of families. We've built a life from broken pieces. Am I happy? I'm more than happy. I'm whole. I tell him yes. I tell him I'm happy in a way I didn't know was possible.
That every day with him is a gift I don't take for granted.
That our strange beginning made me appreciate our present even more.
That I love him more than I loved him yesterday and less than I'll love him tomorrow. He pulls me close.
He says, "We did it, Lily. We took the worst circumstances and made the best life. We took a contract and made it a covenant. We took a lie and made it truth. We're proof that love finds a way even through the impossible." I kiss him. This man who was a stranger in a coma,
who became a patient, who became a boyfriend,
who was always my husband, who chose me twice, who forgave the unforgivable, who loves me in my strength and my weakness, who made our impossible story into something beautiful. I kiss him and think about the girl I was 3 years ago, desperate, scared, signing papers next to an unconscious billionaire. I want to tell her it's going to be okay. It's going to be more than okay. It's going to be everything. But she wouldn't believe me.
So I'll just live it instead.
Years pass. We have kids. Twin girls who look like me and act like him. Strong-willed and stubborn and full of love. We tell them their origin story when they're old enough. About how mommy and daddy got married when daddy was asleep. About how we fell in love twice. About how love is worth fighting for even when it's scary. They think it's the best love story ever. They make us tell it over and over. Each time, I remember how close we came to losing this, how easily it could have all gone wrong. And I'm grateful we chose brave, we chose truth. We chose each other. On our 10th anniversary, both of them, we renew our vows. For real this time. Big celebration. Everyone we love. The hospital staff, his business partners. Emma and her husband and their 2 kids. His mother. Our daughters as flower girls. We're older now. We've lived a decade together. We've survived fights and makeups. Jobs lost and gained. Health scares. Normal life things. But we've survived together. And that's the point. That's what marriage is. Surviving together. Choosing together. Loving together through everything. My vows are different this time. I say, Alexander, 10 years ago I married you to save my sister. 3 years later I married you to save myself. Today I marry you because I choose you. Not because I have to. Not because I need to. But because I want to. Because you're my best friend. My partner. My home. My home. Because our daughters need to see what real love looks like. Because I want to spend the next 50 years annoying you and loving you and building this life we've made. Because you're mine and I'm yours, and that's the best thing I've ever been. His vows make me cry. He says, Lily, you saved my life before you knew me. You loved me before I knew you. You forgave yourself before I forgave you. You've taught me that love is both sacrifice and choice, that it's both fierce and gentle. That it's both holding on and letting go. You've given me daughters and a home and a life I never knew I wanted. You've made me better, softer, more human, more real. I love you for the brave choices. For the scared choices. For choosing me when you didn't have to. For staying when it was hard. For being my wife in every way that matters. We kiss. Our daughters cheer. Emma cries. His mother cries. Everyone cries. It's beautiful and messy and perfect. Just like us, just like our story. After the ceremony, our daughters asked to see the hospital where we met, where their story started. We take them, show them the ICU, tell them about daddy sleeping and mommy talking, about papers signed and choices made, about love that found a way. They're quiet for a moment. Then our daughter asks, would you do it again? Would you still marry daddy if you had to choose again, knowing everything? I don't hesitate. I say, yes. 1,000 times yes. Alexander looks at me. He says, even the hard parts? Even the lies? Even Mrs. Harrison and the gala and almost losing everything? I say, especially those parts. Because they made us us. They made us strong. They made us honest. They made us grateful for what we have because we know how easily we could have lost it. Our daughters smile. They understand. Love isn't easy. But it's worth it. That's the lesson. That's what we're teaching them. That's our legacy. Not the money. Not the company. Not the fun we started. This, the love that survived everything. We grow old together. Just like we promised. Gray hair and laugh lines and grandchildren who think we're ridiculous and romantic. We still celebrate 2 anniversaries. We still tell the story. About the nurse and the billionaire. About the coma and the contract. About the gala and the confession. About love that was impossible until it wasn't. People always ask how we made it work. How we survived the lies. How we built something real from something fake. The answer is simple. We chose to. Every day. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. We chose each other. We chose us. We chose love. Near the end, when we're very old, he asks me one more time. He says, "Any regrets?" We're in our bedroom.
The same bedroom, still together, still choosing each other. I think about the girl I was, 24 and desperate.
Signing papers next to a stranger. Taking money to save her sister.
I think about every choice that led me here. Every lie, every truth, every moment of fear and love and faith. I look at him.
My husband of 53 years. My husband I married twice. The man who was asleep when I became his wife and awake when I became his love. I say, not a single one.
He smiles. That same smile from when he woke up 50 years ago. Storm gray eyes still seeing me. Still loving me.
Still choosing me. He says, me neither. Best decision I never made consciously. Best wife I never knew I had.
Best love I never saw coming. I lean into him. We've said these words before.
We'll say them again. But they never get old. Because they're true. Because we mean them. Because after everything, after all these years, after the impossible beginning and the beautiful middle and this gentle ending, we're still us. Still married. Still in love.
Still proving that sometimes the most impossible love stories are the ones that last forever.
The end. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If it reached your heart, even just a little, don't leave without letting me know. A simple heart in the comments is enough. And if you want to feel more stories like this, stories about love that survives everything and souls that find each other again and again, make sure to subscribe to Dramora Stories. Every story here is a reminder that love always finds its way back.
That impossible beginnings can become beautiful endings. That sometimes you marry someone in a coma and 50 years later you're still holding their hand. That's love. That's what we do here.
Thank you for being part of this journey. Until the next story, remember, love finds a way, even through the impossible.